How's it going, everyone? And welcome to part 4 of the recording guide tutorial. This week we're going to take a look at writing a drum track and creating synthesizer elements and how to learn by ear. I have gone on record many times saying that I don't generally do tabs, and that's because I always learn the songs by ear, and I don't trust most tabs to be correct. So, let's start with the drum track here. So in order to create an instrument track like this, what you do is you don't have to have it highlighted, but just to show off, you have this channel selected, you press Alt, and then you click and drag. That's in Cubase. The alternative is that you press 8 and then you click this, and then you draw it in. Now, when it comes to programming drums, there's a lot of methodologies behind how one would do it. I'm actually going to throw that over there. So, there are a lot of different methodologies. I tend to subscribe to the methodology that Get Good Drums does. Not like Get Good Drums does. And that's that you almost never program at 127 velocity, which is the max velocity here. Velocity, for those curious, is like how hard the sound is, I guess, if that makes sense. That being on a kick drum. I typically program baseline 115. There's a range of 0 to 127, with 0 being basically completely off. There's like no sound that's ever made. And then 127 being as hard as the drummer can hit. That may sound good, but it'll sound better if you keep things low. Well, not low, but if you keep things at a reasonable level. 115 is about a good point. So, yeah, never program at 127 velocity. When it comes to actually programming stuff like fills, like if I draw a fill here. Sorry, it's the other way around. So something I always do, you don't have to do it this way, I've learned that this isn't the best way to do it. Drop all those by about 10 points. Drop every second one by about 10. Then drop all of it by about 5. So you end up with it sounding like this. Pretty cool. In terms of programming an actual drum groove, turn this down. Gotta turn up my headphones so I can actually freaking hear. When it comes to programming stuff like this, you can always keep these at a fairly consistent velocity. Usually when drum libraries are creating their samples, they actually have a roulette wheel. Or I guess it's like sample roulette is what it's called. Basically, it'll just cycle through a bunch of different types of that sound. You can kind of hear in the overtones of that. It's not exactly the same, so you can usually program at exactly the same velocity for all of them, and it's not going to sound too bad. Don't go too overboard with programming velocities. When it comes to cymbal hits, though, that one, this being like a left crash, or the left crash, you can program them pretty hard. But it's a different thing if you're writing on a particular cymbal, like a hi-hat here. I have a macro setup, so if I press Control-Shift-1, every second hit here will be dropped by, I think that's like, by 40 velocity points. Then I drop all of it down by another 20, so you end up with it sounding like this. I guess I could show it off better like this. You don't generally want to be on the same like sample layer here. These are two different sample layers if I pull up or two different samples. If I pull up the thing here, there's like 3 different open hi-hat sounds. I'm just centering around these ones. And when it's mixed, it'll actually sound pretty good. Yeah. So when you're writing on cymbals like that, always, always, always have this pretty freaking low. And like on a ride cymbal, for instance. Like it's pretty buried in there, but it will sound better once we get around to mixing it. So that's pretty much all there is to say about this. And I'm going to quickly go through and program the entire drum groove that I want for this. I'll talk about things like doubles and like playing double bass stuff once I'm actually done with it. So I'll be right back once I've programmed this drum groove. Alright, so I have just finished the drum groove. I'll go through a couple different sections. For starters, right here in this drum fill in the intro. A little bit of rhythmic trickery happening here. Which to a metronome, that sounds like this. And then our main groove, this is just for the drums and bass only. It sounds like this. Sorry, let's do that. So a couple things to note about this little section is that something that I learned while I was going to college was that it's a good idea to mark the start of the form. So, or at least the start of like the section of the drum groove. So what we have here that's where the form restarts, right here. Basically, add a drum fill at the end of every, like, little section of, like, not at the end of every bar, God, no. But, like, at the end of every individual, like, little section. So, like, right here. Fill. And then what I do there is I switch to a different cymbal. So choosing a different cymbal, like right here, I'm using the hi-hat. Kind of like laid, not laid back, but it's tighter. It's a tighter section. Then it creates a little bit more of a loose feel when I switch to the ride bell here. Actually, we'll do a different cymbal there. There we go. Now it's easier to hear. Now what I have happening here, these are pedal chicks. It's just pedal hi-hat. And it's quite literally just as follows. That's it. Just a little additional element. Right here, this is the one instance in which I will say that you can program velocities fairly high. Obviously don't always program them exactly the same, but it's like a little flam is what it's called. Bdap is how you would voice it. And right here I'm using two cymbals at the same time. I don't know why it blew my mind that you could do that, but it did. Another thing to note on this, in this drum groove here, is that you'll notice I have a couple kicks that are a little bit quieter than the rest, and that kind of creates this more breathing motion to it. Like you can kind of hear it there. I always do that to set up a beat, or like to set up a snare hit. But I don't like having it be full, like the full power. It's like if I bring this back up, you know, it's a very different feel. As you'll hear later, I don't always do that though. It depends on the section. Anyway, out over here, writing on symbols. Use symbols for emphasis. So like right here, this is this section. And don't listen to anyone who says that symbol fills are not a thing. They definitely are. Your fills don't have to be on the shells. This section is programmed a little bit lighter because it's a very fast thing, and if I had it up at this kind of level, yeah, it doesn't sound too bad, honestly. Yeah. Weird rhythmic stuff happening here. Also, ghost notes start appearing. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird thing. Ghost notes are notes that almost exist but don't. You can kind of make them out. Those are just there for like extra little bits of emphasis. Here we have an instance of a double, like that sort of thing you would expect, and the drum kit itself is programmed in such a way that you do actually see it making this motion. But watch the kick drum here. You see it do the little roll with both pedals, but this is the sort of phrase that you could actually play with just one foot. So I notated it as if the drummer did. So one hit a little bit softer than the other. Oh yeah, another thing. Note it about symbols. Symbols, if they're being used to emphasize like the start of a section like this, you can always program them pretty high. Like you'll notice they're all fairly freaking high. Anyway, right here we have a cool little thing. Very disco-y groove. That's just going from open hi-hat to pedal chick. Difference of 20 velocity points. Please do not notate open hi-hat stuff like this. Even if it sounds exactly the same to you. To my knowledge, that's not how a drummer would actually play this. They'd only actually accent these hits. Don't quote me on that, obviously. I have drummer friends that I can ask for that, and I will correct myself if needs be. That's a different kind of flam, but again, both program pretty hard. Over here we have some weird djenty stuff. This is kind of like double bass stuff happening here. This is something that you don't always have to do, but I like to treat like, so this would be right, left, right with the kit. So right, left, right. And I like to pretend that the left leg is just a smidge underdeveloped, but is powerful. So I make the left leg be a little bit softer. And in the case of doubles, the first hit in a double like this, because this is another phrase that you could actually play with just one foot, I always pretend like the first, well, I don't have to pretend. The first one will always be a little bit quieter than the second. Cool little Portnoy fill here. Doing stops here. Cymbal chokes, basically. Using a tom, when you're writing on a tom like this, just treat it almost exactly the same as you would normally, except for like the harder hits are actually hard. Actually, hang on. Where is it? Right there. Check this. So what we're gonna do, this is what's happening. Yeah, that goes to F. That's right. Yeah, I know what happens here. Okay. Something else I'd like to note in this Genty section. Just the use of symbols here. Very, like, almost Matt Halpern-y. Just using symbols on, like, different emphasis points, because, like, I think doing this is cool. Anyway. We get out here again. Anyway, right here. Yes, the Mario Kart drum rhythm that I always used. Very long solo happening over this. Yeah, blast beat right here. When doing a blast beat, program the snare drums here pretty low. The compression will bring them back up a little bit, but it should be a little bit more textural in a blast beat. And for the love of God, don't program it like this. Sounds bad. Then we're just back out. A little build up here. Yep, pretty cool. So this is what's happening. Like that. All right. And that pretty much covers it for the drums. But I'm going to take a look very briefly at the synthesizer elements. Now, these synthesizer elements specifically are something that I usually do at the very end, because I would rather have the synth elements fit around the rest of the mix instead of programming it beforehand and not realizing that it doesn't actually fit. But just as a little reference, a couple common things that I like to do is Miroslav Philharmonic 2. This is a fantastic orchestral thing. I'm using this to work on the music for Wolf's Hotel, which I'm doing the composing for. Please go check out Wolf's Hotel. But I like to use the cinema strings a lot. Yeah, and I'll use this as like little padding elements. So if I go right here, it's just a textural element. This will be very in the background. It'll be very in the background. Other things that I like to do, let me change this to a piano of some sort. Actually, what I'm going to do T-Force Alpha Plus. Pluck Synthy Boy. This is one of my favorite synthesizers. It's a really nice trance synthesizer. Notably, something important to note about Cubase specifically is that it doesn't actually support, God, let me think of words, I'm sorry. It doesn't support 32-bit plugins anymore. So you'll always have to do 64-bit plugins. Anyway, so something I would do with this is I would take the cutoff frequency here, bring it down to about 30. And then we go, don't really need the bass note of this. Again, this would be really low in the mix. So what I'm hearing there is this. So this is the part. That is an example of the next thing that I want to talk about. But yeah, I'll do the synth elements last. I'll talk about that later. But the last thing that I want to talk about here, very importantly, is listening with your ears. And learning the song by ear. So here's the thing about learning by ear. It's a very notoriously complicated process. But the best way that I have found to do this is to get literally a piano of some variety, call the track Learn the Song, damn it, and grab just some kind of piano. Here's Alicia's keys. And then we go from this little section right here, and I just slowly transcribe it completely by ear. So it's a little bit cheating because I do actually know the melody here, but it'll be like. And the way that I would do that is I would just do that to whatever song I happen to be working on at the time and hope that it would work out. And that's that. There are people who, I'm trying to think of a good example, but there are songs that people cover that, like, you'll listen to it and you're like, that is blatantly not what's in the song. And it's kind of a toxic mentality to have because, like, most people who do covers of stuff like this are trying to make their own variation of it. But the problem is if it's a melody that's very noticeable or a melody that a lot of people know, then people are going to know if it sounds wrong. Like, for instance, if I were to get Alicia's keys here, again, like the frickin' Mario theme. If I were to play, like, the B section of the Mario theme, so the way the melody actually is played in the original game is like this. That's the note. That's the note there. Leading tone. But the way a lot of people tend to play it, it's a very subtle change, but it makes a big difference in how the melody is heard. So, like, if it's a melody that a lot of people recognize and know, then try to play it how it is in the original song. Don't try and add your own frills to it. Unless it is so blatantly obvious that it's different from the original that it's clear you're trying to write your own melody. Like, for instance, in solos. But we'll get to that later. So with that in mind, I think I've just about covered everything that I wanted to talk about for this episode. Next time, we'll get into actually recording the fucking video. Or not the video, the audio at least. And I'll go over some tips for recording, like methodologies behind how you're going to be recording the video related to how you're recording the audio, and just like overdubbing stuff. So, thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for watching Dragon Knights. All the best, and take care.